Gramática útil 1, your first grammar lesson identifying people and objects. So the lesson will begin with nouns, people, places, and things, and talk about number and gender of nouns in Spanish. Then we'll move on to definite articles, how to say the in Spanish, and a lesson on indefinite articles, how to say a, an, and some in Spanish. Bueno, gramática útil número 1, identifying people and objects, nouns, and articles. So how do you use them? Nouns in parts of speech and language are identify people, places, and things. For example, Señora Valesco is a noun. Mrs. Valesco. Calle, street, teléfono are all nouns. Articles supply additional information about the noun, and they come before the noun. Definite articles refer to a specific person, the person, place, or thing. So, por ejemplo, la Avenida Central es la calle más importante de la universidad. You already know which avenue and university you're talking about. So, the Central Avenue is the most important, or the most important street in the university. So you're being very specific when you use the definite article the. So how do you form them in Spanish? Well, you have to keep in mind a couple of things. Number indicates whether a word is singular or plural. So the noun has a number to it. So for example, el libro is singular, tres libros, plural. So we see a singular noun, a plural noun. La mesa, dos mesas. And gender indicates whether a word is masculine or feminine. And that was easy when we were talking about people. El chico, la chica, we know that that's a boy or a girl, but also all nouns in Spanish, even if they're just things, have gender. So for example, we have el libro, that is a masculine word, the book. La mesa is a feminine word, the table. They have nothing to do with being male or female. It's kind of an unusual concept for English speakers, but all nouns in Spanish have gender. They're either masculine or feminine. So identifying people and objects, noun, gender, and number. The idea of gender for non-person nouns and for articles, they also have to have gender, does not exist in English, although it is a feature of Spanish and other languages. So when learning new Spanish words, you actually memorize the article with the noun to help remember the gender. So if you remember when we were talking about objects in the classroom, for example, we didn't just learn puerta, we learned la puerta. We didn't just learn diccionario, we learned el diccionario. And children, when they're young and learning language in Spanish, they learn the articles with the word from the very beginning, so they always know if the nouns they're learning are masculine or feminine. So with gender, often you can tell the gender of a Spanish noun by looking at its ending. So often you can tell the gender of a noun by looking at the ending. We already worked with this when we worked with las personas in capítulo preliminar. Nouns referring to people often reflect gender by changing a final O to an A. We saw many examples of that. Chico, chica, amigo, amiga. For nouns that ended in a consonant, for example, profesor, you simply made it feminine by adding the A to the feminine noun, profesora. Now for nouns ending in E or ista that refer to people, the article or context indicates the gender. So we saw examples of that. El estudiante, la estudiante. That was how we could tell if it was a student who was male or female. For a word like guitarrista, el guitarrista, la guitarrista. Dentista, dentist. That ista ending does not change to O or A at the end. You have to look at the article el or la. Now there are also words that end in A in both the masculine and feminine form, like guitarrista, other words like atleta. And in these cases, you once again are looking for another clue. For example, Juan es atleta. Juanita es atleta. So you're saying Juan is an athlete, Juanita is an athlete, and you are looking at the name to give you that clue, masculine or feminine. Continuing, we have a general rule. Masculine nouns end in O, like el libro, but of course there are exceptions, and you need to just memorize them. For example, the word day, even though it ends in A, is a masculine word, el día. Mapa, map, ends in A but masculine. And words ending in ma, el problema, el sistema, which is kind of funny because you would think, oh, ma, like ma would be feminine, but those are actually going to be masculine words ending in ma. Now, similarly, a general rule, feminine nouns end in A, like la mesa, but there are some exceptions. So remember the word for hand, mano, it ends in O, but it is feminine, la mano. And foto is actually shortened for fotografía, photo, picture, or photograph, so la foto. These particular endings are feminine. So if you see a word ending in ion, it's feminine. Por ejemplo, la televisión. If you see a word ending in dad, and again, it's kind of like ma, right? Ma is masculine ending, dad is a feminine ending. For example, la ciudad, the city. Tad, T-A-D, la libertad, for example. And umbre, la cumbre, those are feminine endings. So let's do a little bit of practice. Take a look at the word and tell me if you think it's masculino or femenino. Número uno, capítulo. Masculino. How about hoja de papel? Femenino. Puerta. Femenino. Tema, careful. Masculino, there's that ma ending, that's a masculine word. How about conductor? Well, we had el proyector, so you sort of attach that, what you already learned, el proyector, masculine. Estudiante. Trick question, masculino o femenino? Papel. El papel, masculine. Proyector, masculino. Dirección. Take a look at that ending. This is a general rule. Femenino, la dirección. How about día? Yep, one of the exceptions. Masculino. Mochila. Femenino, la mochila. Mano. One of the exceptions is a feminine word that ends in O. Now, to make nouns plural, this is pretty easy. If a noun ends in a vowel, for example, calle, all you do, you add an S and it becomes calles. That's easy. If the vowel ends in a consonant, you can't just add an S in Spanish because of pronunciation. You have to add another syllable, ES. So universidad becomes universidades. Ciudad, ciudades. Papel, papeles. You're going to add another syllable to the end. And finally, just a little bit of notation as far as spelling. If a vowel ends in a Z and you want to make it plural, first of all, you have to put the ES at the end because they can't put an S at the end of a word that has a consonant. But what's going to happen is that Z changes to a C for sound. So the word lápiz, for example, becomes lápices. Now, generally, when a singular noun has an accent mark on the last syllable, you drop that accent when the plural is formed. So, por ejemplo, la conversación, las conversaciones doesn't need an accent over the O. So let's take a look at this little article. How many plural nouns can you identify in this poster for a pet fair? Take a look. There are 6. Can you find them? Mascotas, perros, gatos, pájaros, lagartos, serpientes. Those are our 6 plural nouns. Now, you may have thought to yourselves, well, what about algunos and raros? Those are actually adjectives. They mean some and rare. So they're not nouns. They're parts of speech that are describing nouns. Now, can you find the two definite articles? Las and los. So we haven't gotten into the plurals of definite articles. Time to do that now. So how many ways can you say the in Spanish? Well, the answer is 4. Why 4? Because number and gender are involved in Spanish. So what are those 4 definite articles, 4 ways to say the? El, la, los, and las. What are the 4 ways to say the? El, la, los, and las. Because of gender, el, la, masculine, feminine, and number, los, las, the plural forms. El, la, los, las. So take a moment now and make our singular nouns plural and make the plural nouns singular. Your choices are el, la, los, and las. So how would you change la profesora to the plural form? The teacher to the teachers. Las profesoras. Change el número to the numbers. Los números. How would you change the pencil to the pencils? Los lápices. Remember to change that Z to a C and the ES ending. Change the problem to the problems. El problema, los problemas. Now go the other way. Change the lessons to the singular, the lesson. Las lecciones becomes la lección. Change the books to the book. Los libros becomes el libro. The projectors to the projector. Los proyectores becomes el proyector. How about the neighborhoods to the neighborhood? Las colonias becomes la colonia. The hand to the hands. La mano to las manos. And finally, the days. How would you make the days singular to just the day? El día. Muy bien, so we've now learned the ways to say the in Spanish. El, la, los, and las. And what are the indefinite articles? A, and some. How would you say that in Spanish? Well, first of all, let's talk about what in the world is an indefinite article. Indefinite articles refer to a noun without identifying a specific person, place, or thing. For example, I might say, "Can I have the book?" You would know exactly which book I would want. If I would ask you the question, "Can I have a book?" you could pick any book in the room. Can I have the pencils? Would be that group of pencils. Can I have some pencils? Anybody in the room could give me pencils. So let's talk about the indefinite articles. Of course, there are 4 of them in Spanish. Un, a friend. Un can also mean an. For example, an eraser, a friend, an eraser. Depends on in English what the word after it would be. It would change it to a or an. Un becomes una in front of a feminine singular noun. Un, una. Now, how do you say some? I have a friend. I wanted to say some friends. Masculine plural, unos. Unos amigos. Some friends. And how do I change a friend who's female to some friends, feminine? Unas amigas. So our 4 indefinite articles are un, una, unos, and unas. When referring to a person's occupation, the article is used only if the noun is modified. In other words, if there's a descriptor on that noun. So, for example, if I want to say I am a student, I would say soy estudiante. Sounds kind of cavemanish in English. I am student. If you are saying something like I am a serious student, I'm a good student, I'm a new student, in that case, you do put the a in there. For example, soy una estudiante seria. I am a student serious. And remember, they put the adjective, the descriptor, after the word being described in Spanish. Let's have a little práctica. Fill in the correct choice. Un, una, unos, or unas. So let's start with cuartos. How would I say some rooms? Unos cuartos. I have street. I want to say a street. Una calle. How about ecosystem? Ecosistema. Careful here. Un ecosistema. There's our ending, masculine ending, ma. How about some telephones? Unos teléfonos. Some customs. Unas costumbres. Umbre is one of the endings that, as a rule, is feminine. And how about a chalk? Una tiza. Now let's change the definite article on the left, el, la, los, las, the 4 ways to say the, to the indefinite article on the right. So change the teacher to a teacher or a professor. La profesora becomes una profesora. Change the number to a number. El número becomes un número. The pencils to some pencils. Los lápices becomes unos lápices. The problem to a problem. El problema changes to un problema. The lessons to some lessons. Las lecciones becomes unas lecciones. The books to some books. Los libros changes to unos libros. The projectors to some projectors. Los proyectores changes to unos proyectores. The neighborhoods to some neighborhoods. Las colonias changes to unas colonias. The athlete to an athlete. La deportista becomes una deportista. And finally, the days to some days. Los días changes to unos días.